welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well out there, and today we're going to head back for Universal's first attempt to reboot The Wolfman. But before we get into it, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here. I greatly would appreciate that. Also, as always, a shameless plug for my TeePublic and my Zazzle store. I'll leave a link for both of those in the description box below. And today, we're going back to 2010, folks, for The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro. This was directed by Joe Johnston. Although he was not the first director attached to this, this went through many directors before Joe Johnston took the job. This movie came out February 12th of 2010. It's rated R. The theatrical cut's an hour and 43 minutes long, which is what we're going to review here. Had a budget of $150 million, which is insane. Upon release, it only made 61 in America and 139 worldwide, so this was not the hit they had hoped for. This was a passion project for Benicio del Toro, though. He had been attached to this since 2000, like early to mid-2000s. He's a huge fan of the 1941 original The Wolfman, and he really wanted to do this film. This film follows pretty much the same plot as the original. They add some layers to it. It's bigger scope, obviously, especially with $150 million. But Lawrence comes back to his home where he grew up because his brother was killed by something that nobody knows what yet. And pretty much, you know, he goes to this gypsy encampment one night to try to find, he knew his brother had dealings with the gypsies. So he goes off one night to speak to them to see if they know anything. This bunch of town folks show up because they are convinced that the gypsies have this grizzly bear that they perform shows with, and they're convinced the bear's the one that's been killing people. The werewolf shows up, starts tearing through the encampment. Lawrence, trying to protect this young girl, gets bitten. The Wolfman takes off, and pretty soon Lawrence has some major issues. And we find out later that his father, John, is actually the Wolfman who bit him and killed his own son. And now Lawrence takes out John, and right at the end of the film, Gwen takes out Lawrence with silver bullets, and that's the end of the film. Although there's a little bit of a stinger because Hugo Weaving's character got bit by Lawrence. So now he's going to carry on the curse of the Wolfman, and that's the end of 2010's The Wolfman. So what to like about this film? Well, I think the cast is good. Benicio del Toro is really good as Lawrence Talbot. Anthony Hopkins is always great whenever he's on screen, and he's great here. Emily Blunt's great as Gwen. Hugo Weaving, everybody, there's recognizable character actors in this film, so the acting is well done across the board. When the movie is practical, I like the anesthetic, I like the lighting, the gothic setting. It reminds me a lot of Sleepy Hollow, and even reminds me of a lot of the atmosphere of the original black and white 1941, just brought to color. The Wolfman himself, Rick Baker did the makeup effects, and Rick Baker even makes a cameo in this film when Lawrence is going to the gypsy camp and the townspeople are coming. He is the lookout for the gypsy camp, and he alerts everybody that people are coming when he whistles. That's Rick Baker. He is taken out just a few seconds later by the Wolfman. He did the makeup effects, and he definitely based his design on the original Jack Pierce makeup from 1941. He just builds off it, and I think he does a really nice job. I think the Wolfman looks really cool in this film. There's problems, and there's plenty of problems with this film though too, and we'll get into that. The story is pretty much the same story, just built up. It's a little bit, it's bigger, obviously, especially considering the budget. Again, the setting, when the production design is cool when it's practical. The makeup effects are cool when they're practical. They do throw the blood around. There are ripped off limbs or ripped off heads. So there is carnage candy in this film. It's not overly gory, but there is gore here. And then there's the mystery of Lawrence trying to figure out what really happened to his mother, and when he gets the revelation that his father's been a Wolfman for quite some time. All that's fine. The problems with this movie is, let's get into the negatives. The over-reliance on CGI. Now, this was made in 2000. This was supposed to come out in 2008. Didn't come out until 2010. And Joe Johnston, supposedly to give credence to why there was so much CGI used, especially with the transformation. When you have Rick Baker, you don't use CGI for the transformation. Why would you? Rick Baker's already proven that he can pull off an amazing, real practical effects transformation with the American Werewolf in London, plus the other makeup effects he's done over the years. But they decided to go with CGI. Now, the reason for that is, supposedly, Joe Johnston got hired, or took the job, 2 weeks before photography was starting. The ball was already rolling, but Rick Baker had been working on this film for quite some time. For some reason, Joe Johnston decided to use CGI because, in his quote, didn't have enough time to redesign the special effects. Now you have $150 million. I call bullshit on that. Time might have been a problem, but when you have $150 million, you give Rick Baker the time and you film a real transformation sequence. So the transformation sequence in this film is trash. It looks like shit. It didn't look good back in 2010, and it's only aged more poorly now, considering everything's on a 4K TV and a 4K player. Even on this Blu-ray upscaling, it looks even worse. And there's other points in the film where there's CGI employed. It does not look good. When everything's real, it looks great. When it's CGI, it looks like shit, as you would expect. Okay? That's probably my main problem with this film, honestly, is this overuse of CGI. And when it happens, it's apparent. Plus, I think, you know, the theatrical cut's an hour and 43 minutes long. The unrated cut's almost 2 hours long. And even in the theatrical cut, the editing's a little choppy at points in the film. When I remember when I saw this in the theaters, I thought something's off here. There's some stuff missing. The unrated cut's a little bit better. I don't think it makes it a great movie, but it's a little bit better than the theatrical cut. I'm just doing the theatrical cut here. So let's get into some trivia here. I do have my issues with this film, but I do enjoy it to some extent. The bear that the gypsies have was all CGI, and it was reused CGI from the Golden Compass. Now, in the Golden Compass, it was a polar bear. They changed it to a grizzly bear, and it looks like dog shit. There's also some deer in this film that are CGI, and they stick out like a sore thumb. It's a pet peeve of mine, the CGI bullshit animals that don't look real at all. It takes me right out of the movie, and it does it here as well. I already said Rick Baker makes a cameo in this film. The Wolfman makeup took 3 hours to apply to Anthony Hopkins and Benicio del Toro. It only took an hour to take off, but 3 hours to apply, and I think the makeup looks really good here. Again, this was shot in 2008, not released until 2010. Mark Romanek was originally hired to direct this film, but him and the studio could not see eye to eye on a creative direction, so he stepped away, and the other directors were going to take it, and then Joe Johnston finally signed on, like I said, a couple weeks before photography was going to start. I think another major problem with this film, they spent too much money. $150 million, just like they did with the Mummy remake with Tom Cruise. Plus, they had an untested director, but they spent way too much money. You don't need to spend $150 million to make a badass Wolfman. Now, we'll see this Friday, this coming weekend, what Leigh Whannell does with his Wolfman. I know he didn't have $150 million. I'm not sure what the budget was, but I know it's considerably lower. So we'll see what he does with less money. But these movies don't need to be $150 million. I'm thinking $50 million to $60 million. Let the filmmaker go make a good R-rated monster film. I don't know why they keep on wanting to pour $100 to $150 million into these films when you don't need to do that. I know The Mummy of Brendan Fraser cost $90 million. It made a ton of money, and the sequel cost a little bit more and made a ton of money. But there's no reason to even be using CGI if you want to go back to the monster universe, and there's no reason to have budgets that high. Make it on a smaller budget, $50 to $60 million, with the filmmakers, bring in good filmmakers and let them go, make an R-rated monster movie and give us something pretty cool. That's what they should be doing. Again, at the end of the day, I still can sit down and enjoy this film. There are parts of this film I do like quite a bit, but there are some drawbacks. The CGI looks like shit. The editing is choppy, especially in the theatrical cut. And I just don't know why they spent $150 million on this thing. At the end of the day, I still enjoy it. I'd give this version of The Wolfman a 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10 for the 2010 The Wolfman. What are your thoughts on this one? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Share this video. I greatly would appreciate that. Are you excited about the new Wolfman coming out this weekend? Leave me down below. I greatly appreciate it. That's it for this one. But until next time, bye.